Lochani nguPaul Kulcha omalimela bomtshana ngathi umntu athi ngasiza domnyana kungomvulo sicala ezemidlalo inetwork ngathi senzile phasi nje besi-live yakhamba sibuyile godi game 2 siyithomisa phasi le ndaba sikhona ukuraga nayo ukuthi sikhona ukuthi mhlawumbe sizwisise kuhle sesenomfowethu lapha bekasalothisile umfowethu Siphiwe Louis Mr Balltime man esalalothisile ngiyathokoza kulezi ndawo besiphethe la indaba ye-TTM no-Royal AM for kuyithomse phasi abantu bakhona ukuyizwisisa kuhle.
Yeah, for njengoba besiyibonile ukuthi from last week Friday we were expecting the disciplinary committee to come out with a verdict implicating Royal AM regarding their absence to attend and their failure to attend the playoffs, of which is the reason now why it's Kukune and Chippa United are actually official members of the PSL at the top flight. So I think subsequently to that, we saw a move from Royal AM to sell their status to Chakuma, a club predominantly known for being at the PSL last season, even if eventually they sold their ownership to the members of now known as the Marumo Gallants. So, but I think that that sale seems to have gone through, the sale between Royal AM and Chakuma. Legally, there's nothing stopping that move to happen. But I think what's obviously interesting is that there's a new move. It seems as if our party, Royal AM, Sean Kize, has now shown new interest to Bloemfontein Celtics because earlier on, there was an opportunity for Sean Kize to purchase Maritzburg. But then Farouk Kadodia declared that Maritzburg is no longer up for sale because they were running as a mali financially. So right now, they would have looked for the next door, obviously, for the next avenue to try see where they can try acquire the status. And now it seems like they found that door at the doors of Bloemfontein Celtics. So right now, what we are waiting to see is that does that sale indeed happens between the Royal AM owners and Bloemfontein Celtics, knowing the complications where Bloemfontein Celtics. What we know now is that the EXCO executive committee of the PSL has approved that sale to happen, that deal to happen. That's what we know now. However, the deal has not been concluded, as it's not being pronounced officially. So what we know is that the deal has been approved to happen, and we hear that Celtics has been valued at 40 million rands, actually 50 million rands. So we're not sure that 50 million rands includes what, because Bloemfontein Celtics has an issue with a number of their players. And in fact, they've got new players such as Undumis Mabena, who signed a new 3-year contract with the club, and therefore that needs to be cleared up as to how is the separation of the contracts and the assets and liabilities are valued at the club. And also, the only one, Patrick Tinyap. Remember, Patrick Tinyap's lawyer came through last week to say that they're pushing through a request through to FIFA to say that if Bloemfontein Celtics does not pay any cent until the end of this transfer season, or in other words, until the beginning of the new season, they should not be allowed to go back to the PSL. Ngoba bazobe bangakathambeli umthetho we-FIFA, an instruction that was issued a year ago, last year September, to say that they need to honor umholo waka Patrick Tinyap in a contract yake, which is valued over 3 million rands. So subsequently to that, we know that the PSL has came through to say they came and bailed out Celtics, over that debt, because obviously it would affect the brand of PSL if on the last minute Celtic is not able to continue. So how do they do that? Obviously, we know with the Inter Malaysia stipend with 2 million rands per month, all the PSL clubs. So what they did is they have settled that debt directly to the player, Patrick Tinyap, with an arrangement that they will deduct the monthly stipends that are due to Celtics over the period agreed between the two parties. So that's what we know. So that's a complication that we need some clarity on. And also, we need to know if the 50 million rands include the TNEPS deal or not. That debt, that particular debt, is it included within the 50 million, or Mkize will say 50 million rands, subtract 3 million rands, Patrick TNEP, subtract other contracts that are there, which we are waiting for the pronouncement if the deal indeed goes through. So those are the things that are involved within this deal. So all the complications that are there. And also, is now is that one of the, I think the punishment for Royal AM for absconding those matches, those playoffs, because when Royal AM sells their status to Chakuma, it means that at the moment they are not a member of the board, they're not a member of PSL, so they cannot be charged. They are nowhere in the football. So even if they've been found guilty, now that they've sold the status, they cannot be charged. However, if now the same owners goes and repurchase a new status at a new club, which is falling under the same body, which is PSL, the punishment there should probably be looked at again. But this is the first time that PSL has to deal with something like this. So I think they are looking at how can that be done. And also we've seen with the EPSL has released a press release later on Friday. That press release expected to be on that press release is the chairman of the PSL, Dr. Urban Koza, is the stand-in CEO of the PSL, Mamato Madala, and also the president of the DC. So I think that Nandi Becker. So I think that those three are expected to issue a statement representing the PSL. And on the agenda for that press release or that press conference, first they're saying they want to talk about the legal issues. The topic just says legal issues. And then the second one, they want to talk about the selling of the clubs. And then the third one, they will be obviously addressing the nation and the football arena regarding the new season 2021-2022. So this is the first of its kind. We don't normally see this kind of press conference happening right on the verge of the new season starting. So I think that perhaps we can expect to see some new laws, maybe some new restrictions, or some conditions, in terms of the selling of the clubs and the changing of ownerships. And of course, I think that TNEP deal and the challenges that Celtic has with its board, with its fans, regarding the ownership, regarding the running of the club, I think that some new things could come out from that.
Ngapha iCeltics inomlando la ukuthi mhlambe bangahlekihle abadlali for 3 years. Lo mlando loyo isichema sithengiswa yophelela kuphi umlando lo?
Well, I think that one we can easily say that right now, seyibekelwe eqadi ngase ngithi into engasekho technically, because that punishment came through from FIFA, and it came through because of the TNEP deal. Because Patrick TNEP has applied through FIFA. He actually started from SAFA, he went to CAF, and then he went to FIFA to say that there was an issue with the contract. The player has been released, and his contract hasn't been honored, and there is no proposal for a new arrangement. Even if we must remember, after that application, especially once after it went to SAFA, actually once it went to CAF, Celtics arrangements, because simply they wouldn't have the cash flow within the immediate effect to settle the score. So upon that, the lawyers then did not agree to those payment arrangements. So Celtics did not pay any cent then because the arrangement was not agreed upon, and they simply do not have the funds. This is what they said. So, but what I can say now safely, for the fact that PSL has now honored that contract, Patrick Tiniap, it means that the Patrick Tiniap's lawyer can write directly to FIFA and say, now we are happy, we have received the due funds to the player. You can now uplift the ban. You can now uplift the ban, which means immediately Celtics can now sign within immediate effect. So that wouldn't affect the new owners if indeed it is sold.
Hey, yonke inyakanyaka le mvu indaba zokuthengisa kwengqhema eSouth Africa ehlanganisa abalandeli ihlanganisa ibhola erafa kuyibona njani indaba le?
Yeah, look, I think it's a complicated matter, but I think it's not a new thing. EPSL, I think for myself, saying is that it hasn't been improving to the level of other top leagues in the world. I mean, you can see, for example, if we use the example of the English League, most of the teams are sponsored by outsiders. In other words, the world is sponsoring teams within the English Premier League. However, that does not mean that they can change the name of the club, they can change the culture of the club, and utmost certainly it doesn't mean that they can change the base of the club, because that changes the history of the club. It kills the momentum of the league, the reputation, the value of the league in its entirety. So, but I think, I'm not sure what are the underlying conditions that made it so difficult for Premier League ekhaya ukuthi ifake imithetho enjengaleyo ukuthi isichema ungasithenga, no problem. Change of ownership can happen, but the name, the base, that cannot be changed. Or if it's changed, maybe it's changed after a certain number of years. Maybe after 2 years of the new owners, maybe they're seeing new challenges based on their location. Perhaps they might relocate the club. And also, it gives I think it gives respect and the acknowledgement to the fans. Ukhumbule ukuthi isichema sebholo, it's an entity on its own. Kunabantu abakhamba bokuthenga ijezi and invest, bathengele ifamily yonke, bathengele ijezi isichema, so that they can boost the funds in the pockets of the club. And by doing so, they increase the brand and the awareness of the club on the ground. And when you sell that name and the club base, what you're saying, you are giving a middle finger to the fans. You're not accounting to them in any way, and also you're not leaving them with a club that they can support instead of the one that you're taking away. So this thing has a bigger impact. And if you look at the reputation of the league right now, the Premier Soccer League say change by store instead of being a Premier Soccer League. Each and every year for the past 3 years, a new team or a new status has been purchased, and a new team is on the league, not on the basis of promotion, but on the basis of the checkbook. So I think that's what is becoming a problem right now. It is a problem. So maybe it's time that they sit down and they sort it out, because the situation yaga Sean Keys and the Royal AM thing, and also the challenges that Celtics are facing, I think pushes PSL to slightly think differently, because over the years, this is not the first attempt for anyone to try by Celtics, and all those attempts have failed because of the conditions that are in there. So I think right now they've been pushed to try to do something, and I think it's just right about time that they do something different.
Sesiva lana ufuna udlala ku-PSL sekulula na uphethe imali faka imali zobona uthola ungaphathi kwe-PSL, of which
It's as simple as that right now.
into engasiphathi kuhle thina sibathanda bebhola erahayo. Mfo zenzekile izinto nge-weekend, imidlalo ikuyile pre-season, MT8 ithomile, sibona imidlalo emnandi enhle. After so long sibona ama-goals angena ku-PSL, scoring, igame iflowa nje kamnandi, sibona imidlalo ibe mnandi hle. Umdlalo wokuthoma la i-Golden Arrows idlale nesichema ngomgcibelo hlale nesicema se-SuperSport United siwabonile amagondelo 2-2 zakhamba i-Golden Arrows yaphumelela la ngo-4-3 sele sibethe amapenalty kwalandela umdlalo we-Pirate nomdlalo we-Moroka Swallows la isicema se-Moroka Swallows siphumelele khona kamnandi hle ngo-2-1 sibonile usofengwana kwangazange aphathe kuhle umdlalo lapha nalapha asithathe umdlalo lo Nkosi icala ukuthi mhlambe ikhambele njani umdlalo embili le. Mpo sesenami
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Ake sikhulume ngomdlalo we-Golden Arrows ne-SuperSport United nomdlalo we-Orlando Pirates nesicema se-Moroka Swallows.
Yeah, I think it was a really great weekend for South African football. First of all, I just want to congratulate the PSL and all the stakeholders, especially the chairmen, the team managers, and the coaches for producing such a great quality football that we've seen over the weekend. I think that to check is this indeed our South African football that has risen to this level. So I think it was a really, really, really great showpiece for all the teams, really. Customer Aloyam for Golden Arrows, SuperSport. It was a really, really great game. The basis was the fact that Golden Arrows has finished fourth in the league, and they were pushing very strong within the last season, and perhaps SuperSport didn't really finish at the position that they finished very, very poor, and especially they became a one-man club when Bradley Grobler was injured. They couldn't score again. Also, their duo in the middle, as well as Siphiwe, it shows that their unavailability during the season actually cost them some mileage and some performance. But going to the game itself, I think it was a great game, great showpiece, pound to pound. But I think that Golden Arrows, I mean, they've probably had a quicker start than SuperSport, even if SuperSport equalized. But I thought Kuti, they were the one who were putting more pressure, because you could see that once SuperSport equalized, they were then now starting to defend. So Bonile Kuti, I think maybe the legs are not there. Maybe the preseason wasn't good. And if Kuti, you consider Kuti, some of the players like Rick Flores, Olympics, Olympics, and also Siphiwe. I think he spent 2 weeks out of the preseason because of COVID-19. So in they didn't really have the legs to go through 90 minutes plus, you know. So I think that's what happened in that match. And I think Golden Arrows, eventually, they were the deserving winners. But I think great heart, great performance from Tebogo Mokoena. He conceded a penalty earlier on in the game, you know, that made them trail 1-0. But then again, he came back strong and created that equalizer, you know, for SuperSport to equalize 1-1. So I think he shows that he's a great player, and no wonder there are big checks that are thrown towards his side. When you look at the Pirates Swallows one, what a match! What a match! Started like a house on fire. Started like a bomb. Swallows were on the front foot. Started really, really strong. Free kick. Khamaldin, I think he scored a brace, and it was man of the match in that game. Very good execution. Put the ball over the wall and drops quickly right at the corner, the bottom corner of Ofori. And then the second goal, obviously, it was a mistake by Ofori, which was a goal, which was a ball. I think it was a back pass, and then he had a touch, and the defenders went over him to come defend the 18 area. There, from the moment he was supposed to clear off the ball to the midfielders, and he delayed. He had another touch. Solomons came behind him to poke that ball away from him, and Khamaldin just put it into the empty net. So what we learned in Dabale, Ofori is not good with his feet. You know, he's not comfortable with his feet, especially once he's out of his 18 area. And obviously, once it was 2-0 down, it was always going to be difficult for Orlando Pirates. I think that second half they came out with immediately 2 substitutions, which were defenders. I was a little bit surprised because they brought in Jele, I think, and then they brought in the right wing. So I think that from there on, we saw them playing almost like a 2-4-4, which was a very, very interesting system for me. Ujele, no Happy Jele, no Tyson, Tlachwa Emuva. They were almost like playing like creative defenders, you know. But I enjoyed watching them playing that role. But into ebebdisiguti esiswini kade bangahlangani nakancane, and even that time we saw with their a shadow striker. Dien Hoto was the one up front in the first half, and in the second half, once they've changed the shape, they pushed Vincent Pule more up front, and then Dien Hoto went on the left-hand side. So once they've done that, I mean, you could see which is something that they didn't do in the training camp. The players weren't really sure how to penetrate that kind of system once they were playing 2-4-4, you know. So, and I think Swallows as well, we need to give them kudos, because I think they defended very well, Swallows. And I think Thabo Matlaba has done very well. You know, he was switching a lot of, and a number of times he was switching to the center part of the defense, even though he was set to play in the left back. So I think they really played. Litlabika, for me, very, very impressed. I think he did very well. Never gave anything away. Never gave a silly free kick outside the box or even inside the box. I think they were very disciplined. They were managing that game very well. And actually, during that moment, when it was 2-0, you could see that actually, even when it was 2-1, Swallows actually was threatening to score on transition. Mutlow, very, very great midfielder, was holding the ball very well in the midfield, you know, waiting for everyone to come out. Saleng, when he came on, actually, to think that Saleng is a Pirates player, you know, and they play like that, they lack creative midfielders in the middle. So indeed, it was something to watch. But I think that Swallows is really showing that they are forced to be reckoned with this season. They're very, very hot. We still haven't seen their new signing, but it was a day before Keleto Mahaula. Also Saleng was a debut for them. Even Mutlo was a debut. So those debutants, I think for me, they've done very well within those 2 games. And I think they really deserve to go through if you consider the two between them and Orlando Pirates. Pirates, really slow. I think the starting lineup wasn't really motivating. The fact that they didn't have a striker and they only had one really good striker, Thembi Nkosi Lodge, sitting on the bench. And I'm not sure if perhaps Thembi Nkosi Lodge une fatigue or une injury. I'm not sure what's going on, and I find it very difficult to understand why would Thembi Nkosi Lodge not being employed in a game where they desperately needed someone to finish. You know, because they did have shots on goals. They did have crosses coming mainly from Vincent Pule, and those Dien Hoto was finding it very difficult to finish those crosses. So I think if you have someone like Thembi Nkosi Lodge, you know, someone who can at least hold the ball in the middle or in the 18 area, you know, he gives you half a chance, you know, for a goal. So I'm not really sure what the coach was thinking, and personally, I'm very disappointed with how the Joseph Zimbawa is progressing with the club. You know, he's someone who shows potential but never really gets there, and I think eventually, probably the fans will lose patience with him.
Kwasondro kube nemidlalo la phakathi isichema se-Kaizer Chiefs nesichema se-Mamelodi Sundowns. La isichema se-Kaizer Chiefs silobe khona ngo-2-1 ziya kuma-penalties. Emidlalweni zidlale ngo-2-2. La isichema se-Kaizer Chiefs besilandela khona ngemva isichema se-Sundowns sesibethe amapondelo amabili. What a game. Nangicale i-Twitter, for the first time ngibona abalandeli be-Kaizer Chiefs baba happy nge-lose about the performance isichema sabo, except the issue kaNekovic la babalela khona bathi nokwanga uNekovic zangadlala kuhle emidlalweni lo. Kube nomdlalo la ntambama isichema samaZulu ebesidlala kuhle silobe khona sibethwa isichema se-Cape Town City. What a goal ngomdantsane. ubone njani imidlalo?
Well, I think the biggest match of the weekend surely goes without saying. Would have been the Chiefs Sundowns game. I think you hit it on the nail when you said Nukovic wasn't really part of the game, the way he played. It was almost uncharacteristics of him, the way he plays, because we know that, when there's any ball going onto the wing, he's the first one in the box to run into the box. He's the first one to try and receive that ball. But I think his attitude, his energy was very low in this particular game. And I think you remember that Al Ali is pushing very hard to sign Sami Nokovic. So I'm wondering how much of that is playing in his head, because the transfer market is still open. And, he's probably thinking, perhaps, the manager is talking how much the team is pushing, and there's a money deal that has been pushed through. So I'm wondering how much of that is playing in his head. So I think that is probably affected his game on Saturday, because I couldn't really say what was the reason for Nukovic to play like that. He is really, really uncharacteristic of him. But besides the point, I think the starting lineup was a little bit interesting for Chiefs. I think that Nange made a debut. I think there were 3 debuts for Kaizer Chiefs. The midfielder from the new midfielder from Vets. I think he also made a debut there.
Cole Alexander, Ngunange.
Yes.
No, nangu umdlali ubuya kuMoroka Swahili Sikhota.
Sikhota, yes. Sikhota, this is a player with a lot of speed, a player that threatens in the box quite a lot, but it's not a player that scores a lot of goals. So he's not sharp enough for me. So I'm just not sure how much we should wait for him to be perfect at Chiefs, But I don't think that within these few first 5 games, he's going to be firing. He does have pace. He's more like Gabatino Mango. He's got pace. He's got the dribbling ability, but just that confidence in the box. That maturity when it comes to the last passes and the final passes. When he has to score, he's not so confident there. So in terms of crosses as well, it's a bit of a problem, because he's a left-footed player who plays on the right-hand side. So which means that it's going to be a problem for Nukovic to receive those crosses that he was initially receiving from Frostler in the last season. So I'm very, very interested to see how is that going to pan out, unless he's going to play that decoy number 10, that number 10 that drifts into the middle to try make interpasses with the strikers and allow that wing side for the right back to play through him, So I'm thinking perhaps that's how he's supposed to be playing. But yesterday, he was playing much more on the wider side, as if he was expected to make crosses, And you've seen right foot Jack, how not educated it is, It's so flat, It's not really, really sharp. I'm not convinced, just by the game, I'm not convinced the way he was applying himself. But I think that Sundown started on the front foot, like putting across Shalulile, finishing that in between 2 defenders. Cardoso, I think he should have cleared that. I think he misjudged that cross. He jumped too early, and when he was going down, the ball only went over him. So, if you can see the gap between him and Mato was actually reasonable. There wasn't a problem there, and actually keeping tight on Shalulile. But how that ball found Shalulile in that space, I think Cardoso misjudged that one. And the second goal, obviously, Themba Zwane, making Sundowns making a great interpass from the right-hand side, and Themba Zwane with his brilliance hitting it on the far post. Giving Itumeleng Kune absolutely nothing to do about. But shortly from then, Lake could have made it 3-0, because he made a shot, he scooped a shot that went into the left-hand side, right side of the goalkeeper, and Kune thought it would go to the other side, and he was already on his knees by the time the goal hit the goalpost. So I thought that Sundown started really, really strong, but kudos to the Chiefs to come back and showing a fighting spirit. That was really, really motivating from 2-0 down, and also that moment when Lake could have made it 3-0. it was probably going to be game over from then. But for Chiefs to come back from that, Bernard Parker showing the experience, coming to the box late and making that equalizer and going to the half in 2-1. So I think that was a big move because, goals, they change games. The more goals coming in from either side, they shape how the game is going. So I think that that was a really good booster from Bernard Parker, and then obviously later on that last equalizer. So I think that Chiefs has really gave it their best. But I think eventually when I look at those two teams, Sundowns didn't look like they have a plan B. They've had a really great plan A to try get Modiba playing on the inside and Lake going through, making the crosses for Shalulile. And also, I think if you could have seen that, I think it was Mvala sitting back in the midfield, trying to give cover. And I think we've seen the other midfielder drifting into the striking box, trying to finish those crosses. That was their strategy. And obviously on the right-hand side, they were trying to use Zwane to mobilize the left-hand side of Kaizer Chiefs. And knowing that Shanti is a little bit slow, so I think they were trying to play in segments. If you could have seen that all the time when they were playing, if the ball is on the left-hand side, you would have 2-3 men try to go play that interpass before they actually play out of that situation. So that was their first approach. But that approach needs a lot of energy. And we've seen that as the game moved on, they didn't have that energy. And hence, Kaizer Chiefs could able to play on transition and actually get that equalizer.
Umdlalo wamaZulu nesichema se-Cape Town City.
Yeah, also that was also a beautiful game. Also, a lot of people thought that AmaZulu would actually walk through. But remember that Cape Town City, they've got a new coach in the Eric Tintler. They've lost Liebenberg, their #1 goalkeeper, to a Holland team. However, they did sign a new goalkeeper, Hugo Marquez, from Portugal. That would have been the new coach's influence, because we know Eric Tinkler has been doing some courses in Portugal, so he would have probably spotted Hugo Marquez then. Also, they've got a beautiful signing, a debutant from Richards Bay, Kanyisa Mayo, who started with the game. That was also interesting for me to see. The first goal obviously came through Terence Mashiko, a beautiful run from the left-hand side, cutting through the defense. Well, we can say it's some glimpse of individual brilliance, but it was an awful effort defensively by AmaZulu, because I'm not sure if it was Sibisi who went with Sbu, who went with the Sbusiso on the right back. The center back followed the striker onto the right back position and opened that that center defensive area wide open. And then Terence, instead of making a cross, he saw that Mtansane has drifted away and drift with the defender. So he went into that space and found himself facing the goalkeeper and hit it in the far post. I think that was a great goal for him. It was his first goal in the PSL and the first goal for the club. I think that was a really great opener. And actually, they shook the confidence of AmaZulu through that first goal. But I think they did well to come back, AmaZulu to equalize. But still, you can see that even if AmaZulu were putting Cape Town City under pressure, but you could see that Cape Town City had that ability to play on transition. Pomakola was fantastic for me. Ralan is always fantastic for me. Yesterday he was on top. I think that Kanyisa wasn't really settled. I think he started very slow for me. Some of his touches not really coming up in the end, not finding his teammates. But I think obviously, it can happen to some of the players, during their debuts. So I think that's what happened there. But I think congratulations to Cape Town City. I think they defended very well. They kept the shape for most of the match. That's why AmaZulu couldn't really break them through. And with that front three, Memela, I think it's Memela and who's the other one? The front three? Mulenga,
Memela,
and
ngibani uShaka Zulu
Majoro,
oh Majoro yes
Majoro. That's just that front three. Mamela, Mulenga, and Majoro. Those are the strong front three, and I think this is the front three that actually put them to second spot last season and actually made their coach the coach of the season.
singakarakeli phambili emidlalweni sibuyele emuva kancane emidlalweni we-Kaizer Chiefs nomdlalo Mamelodi Sundowns kuma-penalties ngobe nento eziningi ezenzakalako angazi wena mhlambe uzibone njani izinto ezenzakala kuma-penalty kuthiwa wathi usumapala zangajame elayinini akhe ukhone ubambe ibholo seyingaphakathi it was supposed to be a goal into ezifana nalezo uyibone njani nje ama-penalty lawo?
Yeah, I think it was a really great managed game by the officials during the 90 minutes and the 90 minutes plus. We know that the referee for the game was Victor Gomez, one of our top referees in South Africa. But I think that there were issues. Sundowns should have got a penalty during the game because I think Chiefs, there was a handball in the box. It looked like there was a really, really big distance between where the ball came from and when it touched the arm. So I think that for me, it was sort of like a 50-50 decision for the referee. It could have gone either way, but the referee didn't give it because he wasn't sure. And that's I think that was a really good decision because if you're not sure, you don't give it. You know, that's the attitude you should have as a referee. But when it comes to the penalties, IFAB rule is very, very clear when it comes to the standpoints of the goalkeepers. And this is the rule that came through 2018, 2019. This was part of the FIFA amendments when they brought through VAR. Basically, what happened there is Sundowns goalkeeper, Kennedy Mwene, he made 4 saves. And all of those 4 saves, he moved out of his line, which means that he reduced the distance between the penalty spot and the goalkeeping area, giving him a bigger chance, to try and make those saves. But what was interesting was that the officials, the assistant referee, was right there, standing on the line, supposed to be doing his job. And some of those penalties, Kennedy Mwene was way off even before the ball was kicked. Because the rule says that if the goalkeeper saves the penalty, at least one of his foot must be aligned with the goal line. At least one of his foot, must be aligned so that he doesn't gain an unfair advantage in the penalty spot. But 4 penalties went through and the assistant referee did not spot that on. And the rule says, if the goalkeeper has came out and that eventuality resulted into a save, it needs to be a re-kick. And the goalkeeper needs to be warned, needs to be cautioned. In other words, he needs to be cautioned with a yellow card. Because at the beginning of the penalty spot, the referee would have stood with the 2 goalkeepers and explained the rule to them. That if you come out, immediately you have to get cautioned with a yellow card. And if you do it for the second time, it's a red card. So I'm not sure, first, if they did get the communication from Victor Gomes, the standing referee of the match at the time. And secondly, I'm not sure why the assistant referee did not acknowledge the referee and say, hey, the goalkeeper is outside the line, probably supposed to be a retake. However, the rule says if the goalkeeper does not stand on the line and the penalty results into a goal, it does not result into a retake. It stands like that. The goal stands. However, there was another goal. I think it was Lakey's penalty. Kune saved the penalty, but the ball then bounced back into the goal post, and the whole circumference of the ball was over the goal line. However, the assistant referee did not pick that up. Well, we can say a number of things. That one was almost like almost cruel not to see it, because the pace of the ball was really, really slow at the second time around when it was bouncing into the net. So sometimes these things happen at a split of a second, and assistant referees and the referee don't really get an opportunity like us to see it slowly on the replay or on TV. For us, it became very, very clear that the whole of circumference of the ball has crossed the line. But for the assistant referee, could have been difficult. Let's say maybe he could have, maybe the pole was against his vision. Maybe Kune was also blocking his vision. Maybe he wasn't, his vision wasn't so clear. Even if from us, when we see it from TV, it looks so clear. But I think he had an opportunity to see it clear. And at the end of the day, it's the assistant referee's job to see those kind of things. In South Africa, we do not have goal line technology, and therefore the referee relies on the assistant referee to pick up something like that.
Nemidlalweni wesoyilosi umakhala ubethe igondelo kwathiwa offside. Ubuchapha obungaka kwabo-linesmen eSouth Africa. This season I thought maybe mhlambe kuzoba i-season better when coming to i-refereeing, but sithoma nokuthoma nje sibona ama-blunder kuphela.
That's a disappointing thing, Paul, because the game seemed to be growing fast and furious, but the officials are being left behind. And I've been saying it before that the biggest issue with the South African football is not exactly the referees, it's the assistant referees, because the referee relies heavily on the assistant referee to give him the blind spots. If the assistant referee raise up the flag and say, this is what I saw, the referee cannot overturn that if he's not sure. Because at the end of the day, the assistant referee, so if the assistant raises the flag up, the referee has to acknowledge that. If he decides not to acknowledge that, then he takes a risk. It's an issue of he is sure or he's certain of what he has seen. Remember, the referee can overturn the flag of the linesman or the assistant referee, but only if he is 100% certain that what he saw is exactly how he saw it. So it's a difficult one. So I think maybe we need to invest more into the assistant referees. They're not fully professional, the referees. So maybe we need to try and get sponsors. Last season, we had a sponsor from Outsurance. I'm not sure what's happening this season. If that, last time I checked, the sponsor wasn't renewed for the new season. I'm not sure what's happening, but I think we need more sponsors. We need more money coming into the officialization of the referees so that they can move with the game.
Umdlalo mnandi mfo ubuyile, umdlalo esiyithanda kakhulu, umdlalo ye-England English Premiership, la ingchema esiceda ukungena ku-English, isichema esifana ne-Bedford, isichema esifana ne-Watford, zibonakalele ukuthi zibonakele ukuthi mhlawumbe ingchema ezizimisele ukuthi sifika nosifike isichema se-Brentford sibetha isichema se-Arsenal ngo-2-0.
Yeah, look, I think that I'm not hearing you there, Kulcha.
Ngifuna sikhulume ngenichema, uyangizwa?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I think there's, I don't know, your visual is not so clear. Maybe the network on your side. I don't know if you are able, maybe if you can switch off your camera, I don't know, because your voice is clear, but your visual is not so clear.
Okay, ngizozama ukuyilungisa. Ngifuna siqale khulu ingchema ezifika khona ku-English Premiership, isichema se-Brentford nesichema se-Watford.
Yes.
Ingchema lezi,
yeah, look, I think
zikhonile ukuthumba emidlalweni wabo wokuthoma ku-English Premiership.
It's a strong sign from the club so-called the minnows. English league is the best league in the world. It's the only league where you can find, or very rare, that the bottom club beat the top club, convincingly. So I think it was a very, very strong showcase especially for Watford. I mean, we know that they've lost a number of players over the open season. And also they've had a really big injuries in terms of their striker last season, and now they're coming on fresh and they're showing that probably they could be a team that can finish mid table. I'm thinking, because obviously there's been a lot of investment within the I can say top six. There's been a huge investment there, so I can see that they've started very well, but it's going to be very difficult to mix within those top six.
Ama-defending champions Manchester City alobile abethwa isichema Spurs. What a game.
That was a game last night. I think that was a brilliant game. But I think you remember, this game for me was more like a deja vu. It happened last season, in the beginning of the season as well, that Tottenham beats Manchester City. But I think that yesterday's game was really tight, mixed with a number of debutants as well. From the side of Tottenham, I think the big loss was the unavailability of Harry Kane. We know that there has been a huge commotion between Harry Kane and the club. He's the best player of the club. He's a top goal scorer last season. Actually, for the past 3 seasons, he's been the top goal scorer, regardless of the number of injuries that he's sustained. Manchester City actually happens to be the club that is chasing his signature, and it looks like the player really wants to move now, because obviously, he's been a top striker in England, but he's got nothing to show for it. He's got no accolades. He's got no Champions League. He's got no EPL League. He's got no FA. So I think that he obviously wants to move to a club that gets more accolades. Like a Man City type of a club. He has not been attending his training since the preseason started, and obviously that led to him not being available on the match yesterday. But I think it opens up an opportunity for other players like a Hyun-Min Song. He's a star of the show. There's a new coach, Nuno Sanchez, the Portuguese. I think this is a really great move
Mina
from
umbandulule ngimazela ku nasi isichema sakhe esigijima kwathi yini ichema esi Wolves, yeah.
I'm begging to hear you.
Bekabandulana bekunesichema sibandulako la ku-English Premiership yambandulule. Kwanje ngisiphi?
I'm begging to hear you, but I think you are saying, which team is he coming from?
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. I don't know if it's it's not Portsmouth.
No,
I can't remember.
It's Wolves.
But
Wolves. Yeah, Wolves. Yeah.
I'm really begging to hear you, but I think that you are trying to say which team, which club is it coming from?
Uyangizwa nje mfo.
Yes, I can hear you now. We are talking about Nuno Sanchez.
Yeah, ubuya ku Wolves. It's Wolves and Wanderers.
Yes, he comes from Wolves.
Wolves and Wanderers, something. Yeah.
Wolverhampton. Yes,
Yes,
he comes from Wolverhampton. So, but I look, I think it's a name. It's like ukuthola umbanduli. They tried enough to get a number of coaches, one from Germany, one from Italy, and those deals didn't come through. What a choice, for Nuno to move from Wolves. We know Wolves this is the 3rd year in the Premier League, and they've been doing ever so well since they came through, coached by Nuno. And Nuno is a player. He's a coach who's able to improve players, and I think that's a great thing that's going to happen for Tottenham. Dele Alli, I think you've seen that his confidence would have gone down drastically during the time of Mourinho. But I think that with Nuno now coming onto the fray, that's going to change. He's going to improve number of players because he knows how to work with players. He's got a very great technical enforcements that he does to players. If you look at how Wolf was playing in the last season, but I think you can see within his starting lineup. He's gone strong, and a player that was almost forgotten, Tanganga. The right back, a very good player coming from Tottenham development, very fast player. Actually, I heard Willy Tanganga is the fastest man is the fastest man in the Tottenham squad. So this player has not been really given enough opportunities, regardless of number of injuries that the team has been hit by last season during Mourinho's tenure. So I think the game was itself. He went for 4-2-3-1. This is the only system for me that I think should work for this club, because this is a club that has got an avalanche number of attacking players, very, very, very good players. And I think that it gives now, like we said about Harry Kane, it gives now the show and the stage to Heung-min Son. And I think that, mark my words, Heung-min Son is going to become the Tottenham top goal scorer this season, without a doubt. Obviously, on condition that Harry Kane leaves, absolutely is going to be top goal scorer. And you can see that the goal that they won 1-0. It was an individual brilliance. Tottenham breaks past Heung-min Son on the right-hand side. He drags the defender, the central defense with him. He takes him on one-on-one. He gets in the box, left-footed, far post, and he has an individual brilliance. He breaks. But I think also Bergwijn, 2 minutes later, Bergwijn should have made it 2-0 when he went one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but he makes a wrong first touch. He should have actually made a shot on goal with his first touch using his right foot and tried to reach the far post, but he makes a very bad first touch with his right foot, and it goes on his left weaker foot, and he shoots with it. But at the time, the space was really, really short. The goalkeeper was really, really covering the space. But I think that that gave Manchester City sort of like a belief that they can actually come back to the game. Even if they've managed the game, you can say, when you look at the statistics of that game, you can easily say that Manchester City was controlling the game. But actually, for me, I think Tottenham was controlling the game without the ball. Even if they've had 33% of the ball position versus the 67% of Manchester City, but they were controlling the game, because if you look at the productivity and the shots on goal for both teams, Man City, I think they had 8, Tottenham they had 6, and they had 2 one-on-ones with those 6 goal attempts. So you could see that Tottenham actually was more productive team, even if they did not have the ball. So that was really, really good show off. I mean, over 140 passes that they've made, they've been able to come off with such a great productivity like that. Even if Manchester City had over 292 passes, they simply could not produce anything with that. And it showed that they really missed Kevin De Bruyne, who was obviously ended the season last season on an injury. He came through in the second half, but you could see it was a little bit too late for him to make the changes. But I think also kudos to Nuno bringing on QT Romero, who the debutant in the midfield when he took off Hojab. So I think that was an exciting sort of substitution for me. And I think it's going to be an exciting season for all teams, really. It was a really great start for Tottenham.
Zobe sinomona singakakhulumi ngoBruno Fernandes noPaul Pogba emidlalweni weManchester United, laba kuthumbe khona ngo-5-1.
Absolutely. I mean, France, having had a disappointing Euros, coming off in the quarterfinals, beaten by Switzerland. Even if they performed so well, Pogba himself got a beautiful goal at contender of the tournament, goal of the tournament. Look, predominantly he never really had a great performance with Manchester United, but it seems now that with Bruno Fernandes being at the fray, he seems to show improvement, and he brings that confidence from the Euros. Individually, he performed well, even if France didn't do well. But I think that was a really, really great combination. The two of them creating 3 goals, 3 assists and 3 hat-trick. Actually, for Bruno Fernandes, that was his first hat-trick for the club. And also, for me, this is the most consistent player in the EPL. Perhaps between him and Kevin De Bruyne, for me, I think these are the 2 best players for me and the most consistent player in the EPL. But I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be very excited And also remember for Manchester United, before that game, there was an announcement of Rafael Varane, you know, so that would have been something as well that also lifts up the mood of the fans, considering that the fans are now back at the stadium. So that was a really, really great sort of showpiece for Manchester United, I thought.
Sesivala nje uphuphisitawo.
I think this is the most confusing moment for the player and the fans, especially the South African fans as a whole. Look, all we know is that there has been an agreement between the two clubs, Al Ahly and Brighton, for a figure of £4 million, which is about 68 million rands in South African terms. There has been an agreement that has been reached financially, but I don't know where the deal has stuck right now, because I've seen that some of the people are saying that Pesitao has been registered by Brighton, and that is indeed true. He has been registered for the new season to play for Brighton. However, in the game where Brighton beat Burnley 2-1 over the weekend on Saturday, he was not in the team squad. So it's really, really confusing, Uguti, why the wait, you know, if everything has been agreed. But it's over a week now that it's been announced that the agreement has been reached, but the announcement doesn't come through that he has moved over to Egypt. And when you go to Brighton website, I went there last night, his name is still listed as the striker. So it's very, very confusing what's going on. And I presume this could be obviously playing in the mind of the player and affecting the preparation of the player going to the season. You know, I can assume a situation where what if the deal breaks, it doesn't happen, and it's going to affect him, you know, going to the new season, given the fact that the coach, Graham Potter, he's already setting up his team, trying to set up his strikers, trying to see who's going to work. We know that last season, the team was really battling to score their second goal, and now they want to sort out the partner for Neil Mope, to try and get a partner for him. And in the preseason, I thought Pesitao played very well. It will be really disappointing to see him not getting game time if the deal breaks. But if the deal happens, the plus is that maybe he's going to get game time at Al Ahly. But obviously, most of us can see that it will be a downgrade to move from the best league in the world, you know, and to go play in Egypt. But I'm not sure where the deal is holding right now. But the fact that it is holding, it means something is wrong. Something is wrong, something is not ticking, something they're not agreeing with, or either the personal terms. I'm not sure. But let's watch the space and see what's going to happen.
Sithokoza kakhulu mana ngabukeleko la nangibona ngihleka nje uJabulani uhlalele kuma-comment akagwera ubuyana kusako. Uhlalele uJabulani banomngane wakhe la bakuhlalele baphasi phezulu ngawe. Sylvester Makhonjo siyathokoza man
bathini Mujabu uthini I can't see the comments.
Angazi utheni negama olukhulumileko le-English babhizi ngalo bakuhleka bathi nangumuntu bazosikhulumela i-English ngomvulo ongaka.
Mtshele ukuthi abuyele esikolweni.
Akabuyele esikolweni. Sylvester Makhonjwa bekasiphandlulula la khona usibukele bekasiphandlulula ngegameni langibhalela yena. Is
Wolf. I think we're talking about Wolf.
Kanje igameni pronounce uthini?
Wolverhampton.
Wolves.
It's a Wolverhampton. Yeah, Wolverhampton. But Wolves is a certain version of Wolverhampton.
Yes. Yalangibethe igameni labe kasiphandlulula lapho. Ukhona umakhamba yedwa, yeah. Bakhona nje basibukele. uJabulani uhlalele kamnandi kakhulu. Mhlawumbe khona sikuchiyako mhlawumbe khona sikuchiyako ofuna ukusivezela khona namhlanje ebholeni rakwakho. Breaking news.
I think you wouldn't be too surprised, Mangiti. Chiefs losing last night should be breaking news, is it not? because it would have broke too many people's hearts.
Yeah.
That's breaking news, isn't it? Yeah, but I think that this morning, it seems as if Mamelodi Sundowns, because I saw some trails and tweets from Mazola, who's a newspaper editor. So Mamelodi Sundowns, they are putting a new offer for Siphiwe and Tebogo Mokoena. So that's something fresh. We have to watch the space if this really materializes. Also, we need to look forward for Kusasa. I think the press conference, the PSL, is at 10 o'clock. I'm not sure. I think we need to look forward for that press conference to see what comes out of that.
Sino PZD nayo khona kulaba abakhona namhlanje PZD ukhona uphosela lakhe lobotlane uveza indaba kaNokovic uthi uNokovic akakhamba ama makhosi moya phasi uNokovic usiperegele kuma games adlulileko uNokovic naye njengomunye umuntu uyaba ne-birthday but izolo I think ucoach bekufanele ukuthi am-sacrifice njengoba mbona ukuthi umdlali akasimuhle bekufanele substituting like just to save him. Go back pre-season trading, he's got nothing to lose. That will not go the path. Yeah. Ukhona la uPoshia mamnkosi. uPoshia unankosi lo. Omunye ukuhleka noJabulani vele bakuhlalele baditshe ngawe kulo kanje. Namhlanje.
Welcome guys, welcome to the show.
Isafuna igamela bahlejama. Kungubekezela ngisafuna igamela babeke.
Yeah, also we must also remember in the Chiefs for I think we must also on our show we must also talk about the Chiefs squad because they think Chiefs has signed enough. Chiefs has not signed enough for me. It's not balanced. But I think on Friday, because of time now, we're not able to elaborate. On Friday, we'll have more time to elaborate on why we think, or why I personally think that Chiefs is still leaking. For so long as certain positions, I think that haven't been covered. So it was very interesting to see how our conversation goes on Friday, and possibly maybe we can throw in names that we think can slot into those positions that we think are vacant.
Kamnandi khulu mfo ngolohlanu sizayibamba hoping ukuthi mhlambe siza kuba more people abaphosela labo lobotlana. In Paul Culture mina umalumela bomtshana nakungimi banengidla.
Thank you for having me.
Ababukeleko siyathokoza namhlanje abaphosela lobotlana ebholeni le eragwako. Hlanganeni ngolohlanu ngiyathokoza.